Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham podcast. I'm Max Sayes, your host, and as we sit 1 week later-ish to the day where Forest lost to Chelsea on the final day of the season to, finish the season off for Forest and mean that we'll be playing Europa League Conference next season. We will look back on the season and give out our annual awards, which is always a fun thing to do now that the dust has settled and we all have simply nothing to do on a Saturday. So what better time to do it live on Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, and YouTube, Garibaldi Red, than 3 o'clock on your Saturday afternoon. So if you are watching live, be sure to get your comments in, and this can be your Forest fix for Saturday. We are joined with a bumper panel, an action-packed show for you. Joined first of all by Dave Astbury, who is looking good as ever, Dave. And nice to see you back, mate. How are you? How are you feeling? What you been up to since a week without no football?
I've been in the gym a lot. I've had clients in, done classes. I feel great, mate. I feel fantastic. I feel physically fit. Feel happy and contented, and just a bits with Forest. So yeah, all the pieces are in the right order, mate.
Good stuff. Also joined by Sara Brown, who makes a return after having a bit of a break. We were just saying before we came on air that Sarah's getting too expensive, so we've had to cut her ties recently on the podcast. Sarah, how are you? Yeah. Sarah, how are you? How's things?
Yes, very good. Yeah, very good. Good to have some time off football, really, I suppose. Going to look forward to the summer. More grandchildren on the way, so busy.
Yes, congratulations. Also joined by Mark Turner, who we did the podcast with after the Chelsea game. Mark, we were a little bit downbeat, but I'm feeling a bit more positive today, mate. I don't know about you. A week in the sun's done me good.
I'm sure it has, mate. I'm in a great mindset. In case anyone's wondering why I'm adorned here in green, all the way down to my trousers.
Oh.
These are my Conference League colours. I'm very, very excited for Forest back in Europe. So hence the green, although I'm going to dispense with a cap here in a moment.
Yeah, that's us not earning any money on YouTube for a week now that Mark's got us an X-rated tag on our stream.
Crotch shot.
I didn't mean to link.
Swiftly on. No, it's all right, mate. Right, let's get cracking because otherwise we'll be laughing and going off tangents for ages. So we thought that we'd do our kind of end of season awards. We did this last year, so it's kind of 5 things that we're all going to vote on, and then I will try as the adjudicator, if you like, as the host, to settle on one. We will all try and settle on one for our player of the season, our unsung hero of the season, signing of the season, best moment of the season, and worst moment of the season. So there's lots to get into. We thought we would start with the player of the season. Obviously, Forest did their own player of the season. Milenkovic obviously won that. So we will go with ours and we will take it from here. As ever, do get your comments on YouTube and Facebook, Nottingham Forest News and Garibaldi Red on YouTube. We'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe have some suggestions for player of the season and ones that might go under the radar. So be sure to get them in. Right, let's start, shall we? Let's start with you, Dave. I'll do mine at the end and then we'll try and come to some sort of an agreement. Who is your player of the season for Nottingham Forest this season and why?
I've got one, but before I name that individual, I have to say it could have been any of a widespread, of people. It could have been any one of a number. I mean, when Forest put the thing on social media and out for vote, I kind of, who do you give it to? I actually wrote all of them, right? And I think it needs to be said that it could have gone to anyone. But it's Milenkovic, because I think Milenkovic is the most transformative footballer, individual, human being that Forest have signed for a long, long time. Absolutely. So it's Milenkovic for me. I think he's, we spent all the last season talking about set pieces and how poor we were, in those situations and defensively. And he's come in and he's raised the standard on the field because he's given us that rock solid backbone that has helped us to progress probably more than any club in this division. And I think he's pulled everybody up by the bootstraps off the field as well. And I think he's raised the standard throughout the club. So it's Milenkovic for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, just dropping my phone there in the middle of a podcast. Not good. Mark, who would you go with? Do you agree with Milenkovic?
So I don't want to cut Sarah off at the knees here, but Milenkovic is the right answer. That being said, in the interests of keeping it interesting, I'm going to throw another name in and fight my corner for Ola Aina, just because I love him. I absolutely
Great character.
Yeah, incredible character. Wonderful on the field and off it. He's been in so many social media videos this year.
Yeah.
And I also think, when Dave talks about a transformative individual, there's no doubt that Milenkovic was that on the field. And Dave's right to cite our increased ability in both boxes in the air this season, which was sorely lacking last year. But don't discount Ola Aina's transformative abilities, not just on the field, but in particular in the dressing room as well. The culture that has been developed this year in this bunch of lads has been really, really impressive. And he seems to be at the heart of that. When he was injured and missing, you could actually see that on the field as well. It wasn't just him being missing from that position. It was the impact it had on his teammates. And so I think he's been an amazing pickup this year. So I want to give him a shout out.
Brilliant, Mark. Brilliant.
Yes, some good points both. Sarah, what about you? Anyone different?
Well, I mean, I can't say anything other than what Dave and Mark. I agree with what they're saying, and Ola Aina's been one of my favourites this year, and Milenkovic, I absolutely love him. I mean, I could go through the whole team, as all of us could, and just by a whisker, I'm giving it to Chris Wood because he scored 20 goals, and 20 goals in the Premier League have been amazing. And we've seen, without his goals, the last few games, I know he scored at Tottenham, but without him scoring them goals, I mean, we just would be nowhere near. And really for that reason, and the change, and he's proved us all wrong. And I think that's what I like, because lots of us, I had to listen to quite a few people, including my husband, who used to sing Driftwood to him, saying he's not good enough. And I will honestly say that I walked up to that Newcastle game on Boxing Day, the season before last, and said, fancy him for a goal. And Mick asked me if I was taking some kind of drugs, and he got 3. So, he finished last season well, but he started this one unbelievable. He carried it through. He had an injury. I think quite a few of them have dropped off after their injuries. But Chris Wood, for me, because of 20 goals a season, is just amazing. Amazing.
Can I just come in, Max?
Of course.
On an unbelievably sentimental thing for me. Chris Wood, I totally agree with what Mark says about Ola. One of the great personalities of football, let alone Nottingham Forest. But Chris Wood means a lot to me because pretty much the last thing my dad said to me before he passed was, have faith in Chris Wood. He's better than a lot of you, a lot of saying. And the old boy's sitting here on my shoulder now, and he's going, I told you. So, yeah, Chris Wood means a lot to me. So, well said, Sarah.
I know that was a great shout, Sarah. I know as well, we're not doing goal of the season because we don't have the visuals to support it, and that makes sense. But I will say for me, he also scored the goal of the season as well. That absolute peach at the back from Morgan Gibbs-White, and a little bit of head tennis between him and Alanga.
Yeah.
He never did.
Like Chris Wood, Chris did.
Yeah,
he put it over the goalkeeper. Beautiful goal. So, he has been an absolute outstanding performer this season, Sarah. Good call.
It's such a hard, it's a hard call, isn't it? Because I love Milenkovic. I absolutely love him. I think he's done brilliantly. Ola Aina, I love him. I love them all.
What about Matt Sales?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Sales, everyone, he's amazing.
Nico, Morgan, Elliot,
Morgan,
Anthony, Callum. I mean, I think the truism of all of this is just how you pick one and they're a worthy winner. And then you start to hear other people's views. Oh, hang on, they're worthy as well. And that's what a tribute, what a testament to what they've done and what Nuno and the staff have done.
But the thing for last season was I didn't watch some of the crosses that Morgan put into him and some of them I did feel that he actually could have got a few more last season. But this season he's been finishing them, hasn't he? And it's just for me that was the only difference really, the 20 goals.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go for Chris Wood as well, Sarah, purely for the reason of trying to be a little bit different and maybe giving it to someone other than Milenkovic because he has been the shout. He got the official Forest Player of the Season. But totally agree with you about the 20 goals. How long have Forest cried out for a striker? Everyone going, we need a 20 20-goal a season striker. Well, we've got one now, and we've still got another year of him in terms of his contract, and you never know, he might last a bit longer than that. But you know, Chris Wood, in terms of footballing in the footballing world, is quite an older player. Yet he's turned it round and proved people wrong, and I think that's probably what Forest have almost had in their identity this season in terms of players and proven. You know, me and Dave have talked about it loads on this, and you know, everybody else on the podcast this season. But in terms of players proving people wrong, players that have had to come to Nottingham Forest with a point to prove, and Chris Wood was one of them in terms of, and even our own fans doubted him, me included. Anthony Elanga had something to prove. Callum Hudson-Odoi with a terrible start to his career with injuries, and Chelsea fans ultimately slagging him off. Elliot Anderson had a point to prove with his price tag. I'm trying to think of other players. Nico Williams probably wasn't that fond of in terms of at Liverpool. So the list
goes on. He was bought for 5 at the back, wasn't he? He's had to adapt his game.
Harry Toffolo with the controversy he found himself in off the pitch. So there's lots of players that have had things to prove this season, and I think Chris Wood has done that. So I would argue Chris Wood.
Max, can I just interject very quickly and say I don't know that too many fans felt like Chris Wood couldn't do the job. He had a history of doing the job. I think it was more the amount of money, which now seems absolutely laughable. What do we pay, 15 million quid or something to get a 20-goal Premier League striker? But yeah, either way, it's a great shout.
Yeah. Well, we've got to try and decide on one.
He's done it in a team that should have got relegated, don't forget, as well, according to all the pundits.
It's a good point, Sarah. It's a good point. So let's try and decide now. Are you sticking with Chris Wood, Sarah? Are you going to try and argue, or are we all going to agree that Milenkovic is probably worthy of it?
I'm happy to go with Milenkovic.
Let me share it.
I'm happy to go with that. I mean, yeah, half and half, I suppose.
Like Raya and Sells. Like Raya and Sells with the Golden Gloves.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. All right. Let's go with that then. We'll go with a 50-50 split for Garibaldi Reds Player of the Season, which is Chris Wood and Milenkovic. 2 brilliant players, one at the back and one in the attack that have done very well for Forest this season and won us and saved us many points. I just look back to some of Milenkovic's defensive clearances off the line and at the back, and Chris Wood's tap-ins that have proved vital 1-0s and just being in the right place at the right time. So there we go. Okay, that's that one done. And we move on. I feel like I'm hosting an awards ceremony. And we move on to our underdog/unsung hero player of the season. I will kick off and I will go straight away. I don't think there's any doubt about this. Nico Williams. And I mean this in a sense of I could have put Harry Toffolo in there because when Harry Toffolo's been asked to do a job this season, he's done it. But in terms of a player that has had to step up, probably improve, get better, and ultimately just slightly goes under the radar at times, I think Nico Williams is that player. He's had praise recently. But he's also had criticism in the past, both from Forest fans and the wider footballing world. So for me, he's always gone under the radar. He's always been that player that does the job. And he never seems to kind of moan about it. And he'll always step up. And I just think he's done brilliant in terms of adapting and evolving to Nuno's style of play this season as well. So I'll go Nico Williams. Sarah, who do you want to go for?
Well, I've got 2.
Go on.
I've got one for the beginning of the first half of the season, which was Dominguez, because he was going under the radar and he went less so under the radar towards the end of the season. Not that he didn't play as well, he did. It's just people were noticing him. And then Nico Williams for the other way around, really. And again, I've had to listen to a lot of people just going, even recently in the last 4 or 5 games, saying they don't see what everyone sees in Nico. And it's like, really, me and Mikel are going, well, we're seeing it. So I'm kind of torn, but yeah, Nico Williams for the end of the season towards its second half, without a doubt. But Dominguez, he was fantastic at Leicester away, wasn't he? And, some of those games, and he was going under the radar. So I'm a bit torn, but I might go Dominguez just to be different to you, Max. I don't know what Dave and Mark's going to go for, but
Dave, do you want to give us yours?
I've got to say that Nico Dominguez has always gone under the radar because he's not that kind of player that's going to grab the attention. He doesn't want it. He's a fantastic teammate. In that dressing room, they will all be kissing his feet because they adore him, because he allows the others to go and express themselves, right? He's that kind of player. Like McGovern was in the greatest team, like Yates has been, right? I just think Dominguez is a slightly better footballer than Yates and can do that stuff. So I'd say Dominguez. Nico Williams is a great shout, because Nico Williams' progress is sort of symbolic of the progress of every single one of them. Every single one of them has got better, right? I'm going to put it out there, out in the world, the one I think is under the radar. I don't think he's under the radar with us four and the Tricky family, but I think he's under the radar out there, and I think he deserves more recognition, and I hope it will come, especially at international level. I love Poker Face, the Geordie Maradona. He's wonderful. Nothing phases him. At Brighton, we were behind him when he walked to that end to take a penalty, and they were all waving their scarves and we were flicking signs at him and stuff. How weird. I'll take the penalty, man. Bump, in it went. He turned away as if it was nothing. That guy is brilliant in close control. I saw him from 4 rows from the front of Palace. He had Tyreek Mitchell around him. He had Ez around him. He had a bunch of others, and he's close control to get out of the tight one. Mind-numbing brilliance, right? And it's this business. If I was playing against Elliot Anderson, he would be my worst nightmare, because he would not give me a clue as to what he was thinking and what his mindset was. He gives nothing away. I think he's out of this world. And I think that I'm talking to the converted here, but out in the wider world, a lot of them they talk about Morgan because Morgan's talismanic and that. But I think a lot of the time, there was a time when Morgan wasn't in the side early in the season and Elliot filled in for him. And Elliot can kind of come and do the defensive stuff and he can do the attacking stuff. Elliot Anderson is my unsung hero. I think he's wonderful. I adore the guy.
Yeah, it's a great shout, Dave. In fact, actually, if I'm totally honest, I wouldn't have thought of putting him in there, probably because I think in the Forest family he gets enough praise. But you're right, actually, in terms of that Poker Face and in terms of other people giving him credit, and pundits and people were very quick to judge Forest for spending that sort of money on Elliot Anderson when we know it didn't really account to that kind of money that the media you were talking about because of the PSR and the swap deal that we did with Newcastle. And we're all not accountants, so we're not going to go into the detail of it. But in terms of in terms of actually what Forest have paid for him and the value for money ultimately as a footballer, he's done a brilliant job and he does
worth
deserve more praise.
35 million, isn't he, alone?
He's
worth more than 35 million, isn't he, now?
It's his psychological strength. The only time I've seen that lad give a clue to the outside world of what's going on inside that incredible mind of his was at Wembley when he was celebrating Newcastle winning. Then you saw Elliot being wah, but the rest of the time, nothing face. Even when Callum gave him his birthday present on the training ground, he just went, "Hey, can he that? How weird!" And I just love that understated nature of Elliot Anderson, married to the fantastic work rates. I've never seen a bloke so many times nick a ball off an opponent's foot. He's out of this world. But the beauty of this Forest team is there are honourable mentions for all of these awards, and that is the greatest thing about this team.
Dave Astbury there. He'll be available for Geordie impressions if you want him to book him out for your 50th or 60th birthday party.
I was a little confused. I didn't know that Anderson was Dutch.
Which is a British trope. Whenever somebody does an accent, the person responding goes, "Oh, he's from somebody far away from where he's actually meant to be." So I'm glad Mark's done that. He's not lost that British trope while being across the Atlantic. I'd have been upset if he said, "Oh, that's really good Geordie, that way."
I don't know if you heard the impression I did of you several episodes ago, Dave. It was.
I've been made aware of it, dear boy. Yes.
Ando's
very good.
Thank you. Ando's a great shout. He's actually one of my favourite, again, alongside Ola Aina. I have a triumvirate. Ryan Yates, Ando, and Ola are just the players I love, I warm to. And it helps as well that Ando plays in my position and has my shirt number. So he's definitely a great shout. And I also want to give an honourable mention to Ryan Yates as well, who, I know that Morgan Gibbs-White is the flash captain. He's the blue chip. He's the banner boy when it comes to national media and so on. But as a club captain, Ryan Yates is all you can wish for. He's absolutely selfless, works as you know what off. Has matriculated through every level within the professional game out of sheer will and pig-headedness, and not too little amount of ability as well. So I do want to give him an honourable mention.
Yeah.
But clearly, the unsung hero of the season has to be Carlos Miguel. No, I'm kidding.
He's selfless act at Exeter.
I've got to go with Nico Williams. I have to go with Nico Williams because I think he is the true definition of an unsung hero. I think you're right. I think Ando has been very well sung within Forest quarters and increasingly so now on the national stage. But I think Nico Williams continues, despite being a Welsh international, to fly under the radar. And here's my compelling piece of evidence. We forget that earlier in the season, he was ousted from his position by Moreno from Villa. He was brilliant. I mean, Max, you remember I was waxing lyrical about Moreno and how Forest had to spend the money, and one of the best fullbacks I've seen in a Forest shirt in sort of recent times. And yet Williams was able to unseat him and has been absolutely flawless more or less ever since. So Nico Williams for me.
He was ousted, actually, Mark. He wasn't ousted by Aston Villa because the game he had to miss was the one against Villa before Christmas.
Yeah.
And poor Alex Moreno lost his place on an administrative thing because he couldn't play against his parent club. And the little Welshman, bless him, went, right, I'll have that. And he hasn't let it go. And, you know, and again, the talk about Yatesy, this idea that a club can kind of have two captains. What does that say about the selflessness of both individuals? You know, every time then Nico was in the side, Alex Moreno was out there supporting him. Alex Moreno was giving it the 3 fist bumps. And again, it comes back to this overriding family feel that we've had this year.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So we'll go with Nico Williams. Is that are we all kind of agreeing there?
Yeah,
we will go with Nico Williams for
the last signs. Pretty much the last survivor now from the 30 signings. If you like him and Morgan, there's not many of those 30 signings left now. So Nico has had to kind of work his way through some little obstacles, and I have no problem with that.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll go with Nico Williams for underdog / unsung hero player of the season. All right, let's move on, and we go for the best signing of the season, which I think we can maybe all kind of guess which one we went for, but you never know. There might be a few surprises in there. Mark, we'll go in reverse order. Do you want to kick us off this time, mate, with your best signing?
Yeah, there's no surprises here. I mean, I don't know how we can say anything other than Milenkovic. I mean, what an absolute steal. International captain, stalwart in the Forest defence, cement in the Forest defence, not only doing his job impeccably, but also bringing the best out of those around him. Dave said it all, 20 minutes ago. I think Sarah embellished those thoughts. I don't have much to add other than I don't see how it can be anyone but him.
Do you think, just I know we're maybe going slightly off topic in terms of awards, Mark, but if Murillo left Forest this summer, do you think almost Milenkovic could step up and he'd be? I mean, maybe he has been this season, and in terms of if he partnered with Morato, let's say, you'd be comfortable with that back pairing of centre backs.
I think I'm going to be a good politician here and not really answer your question directly. I think of the 2 centre backs you just name checked, Murillo and Milenkovic, the one we would miss most would be Milenkovic if either were to be sold this summer. But I wouldn't actually be comfortable with any of the centre backs we currently have on the books partnering with Milenkovic moving forward. As we discussed in the last episode, Max, we need at least 1 or 2 quality centre backs to come in now, particularly given that we have a European campaign as well. And injuries concern me. But Milenkovic is it. He's the absolute tentpole in that back line. Him and Sal's. And they tie it all together. And I think for the money we spent, absolutely ludicrous to get a player of that quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, do you agree, or you got someone different?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Milenkovic because I didn't have him as my player of the season, so I had him as my signing of the season. But like Dave, you could probably call a shout for Anderson as well. But Milenkovic, but I think Milenkovic and Murillo just play so well together because Murillo's got that speed that I think probably Milenkovic has. So they do quite different jobs, don't they? I mean, sometimes you'll see Murillo, he'll be the one that's going forward, and they do swap. But I think they just complement each other so well, don't they? And I think that's why we see when one of them isn't playing, well, Milenkovic played. He's played all the games, but when Murillo's not playing, it is quite. You're not quite as confident, are you? Well, I'm not. I think so. They do play well together.
That's the other thing as well. Sarah touched on is kind of the gay abandon that Murillo can now spring forward with, knowing that he has Milenkovic behind him. Yeah. It's definitely brought an extra facet to Murillo's game. It was always there, but when he's partnering with, with respect, Willy Bolly or one of the other, central defenders that we had available to us last season, he was always looking over his shoulder as he was running forward. And also, don't forget, again, to Sarah's point, they've been incredibly complementary to one another in as much as Milenkovic has scored, 5 goals this year?
We should have had 6.
Yeah, crazy.
They should have had that one at home to Southampton. That was a goal, wasn't it? There was nothing wrong with it. Should have had 6. Every time they say he's got 5, I'm like, should have had 6.
You don't like them to make them forget, Sarah. You don't let them forget.
No, but they did. They did. They had an individual. They had a independent panel that came.
Yes, they apologised for it. Yeah.
So
absolutely. Dave, who would you go for? Are we all in agreement? It's Milenkovic, or are you going to kind of fight for Anderson?
The best signing any football club has made on this planet this season is Nikola Milenkovic for 12 million from Fiorentina. An international captain, a huge physical presence, a backbone in one body for a whole team. And, it goes to everybody's point. Moo has thought, right, I can go and have a wander forward, take everybody on, do a flick, hit a centre-yard ball, because this big one-man army is behind me and he'll let me go. Where are you off, Ola? I'm going to go forward and beat a few and smash one in against West Ham. Why? Well, Nicola's holding it at the back and he'll murder you because he's from Serbia. Where are you going, Nico? Well, Nicola's at the back. I can go. How are you feeling, Selzy? Well, I've got this huge wall in front of me called Nikola Milenkovic, so I just have to make a few saves here and there. What about you lot further forward? Well, we can just, gay abandon is a fantastic phrase. Morgan's like, well, Milenkovic's back here. He's done so much for this football club. I tell you what, Clough would pick him as his player of the year. Clough would look and say, he'd see Burns and he'd see Lloyd and he'd see Needham, the greats, in Milenkovic, right? And he'd see that in all of them. And I think what Nicola's done for Mats, Ola, Nico, Moo in particular. I mean, Moo's unlike any centre-half I think any of us have ever seen. From the moment against Crystal Palace last year when he beat all the 30,000 residents of Croydon in one run before he had a shot saved. He's been allowed, all of them, because of Milenkovic's solidity. He's that cornerstone. They're all now allowed to express themselves and to be who they want to be on a football field within a team structure. And that 12 million to Fiorentina. And props to our recruitment department, because our recruitment department for far too long has been a standing, sitting in the office joke. It isn't anymore. Our blueprint when we came up, for me, as far as I was concerned, was Brighton and Hove Albion. Don't Brighton sign good players? Their scouting and recruitment's incredible. Wouldn't it be great? I'm sure I actually said on the pod, Mr. Marinakis will be looking at Tony Bloom thinking, I'd love a bit of that in 2 or 3 years' time. Here we are. And Milenkovic is the epitome of all that. The signing of the season by anybody. Yeah, you can talk about your Gravenberches and all these other people. Milenkovic has made the biggest difference to the team making the most progress in this division.
Yeah, spot on. Agree. Beautiful stuff. We are flying through. 2 left. I'll leave best moment till last so we can end on a high. I've got to put it in there. Most disappointing moment this season. I will go with defeat to Everton. I thought last minute that was incredibly disappointing. Sarah's gutted because I've just taken hers. I was and ahhing whether to go with the Leicester and conceding late on there, or even the Brentford game possibly. But look, this season's been amazing, and it's not like last season. It's not the seasons that we've had in the Championship where we could pick out 5 to 10 most disappointing moments. I mean, I look back at my most disappointing moment ever as a Forest fan was going to Wigan Athletics Stadium, the DW, twice in 1 week, one in the FA Cup and one in the league, and seeing Forest draw 0-0 in the league and lose 2-0 in the FA Cup. And yeah, that was disappointing. So, it's hard for me to give a disappointing moment. But if I have to give one, I say conceding late on, losing the game to Everton, walking out the ground and just feeling quite deflated after that. Sarah, we'll go to you first. Were you going to go with that?
Yeah, I didn't see anyone doing that either. Because for me, yeah,
Great minds think alike.
yeah, because Brentford disappointed, Leicester obviously disappointed. I wasn't at the Leicester game because I was on holiday, but I'd already made my mind up we weren't going to win that game. And late on, when I heard, on the radio them saying all the momentum's been Leicester and they brought their subs on, I turned to Mick and said that we're not going to win this game. So, and I'd already got to that point. Whereas when I was watching Everton, I was like, I'm happy here with a draw. I'll be happy with a draw. And I said, they can't lose that ball there. Oh, they've lost the ball there. And I said, they're going to score, and they scored. And at that moment, I realised that Champions League or Europa or any Europe was not in the bag. And there was going to be some twists and turns that season. I think it was at that moment, it felt like, I haven't felt like that. Even the loss to Bournemouth didn't feel like that, because I was away at Bournemouth, but fairy dues, we'd had a good run, they'd played well. We were still 6 points ahead of them, and we'd still got plenty of games ahead. And the expectation still wasn't there. The expectation had started to feel real when we played Everton. And when that goal went in, it was like, oh, I haven't seen us do that this season. And I think that was it. And then it kind of snowballed, didn't it? Brentford, So it was that moment that goal went in. Like you, Max. I was surprised. I didn't think anyone would pick that one. I thought they'd pick the Leicester one.
Dave, do you want to come in and do you agree? Have you got another one in terms of most disappointing moment? Have you got a most disappointing moment, or are you not going to give one?
Yeah, I don't agree. I wasn't disappointed against Everton because I thought this is a really good lesson for the vast number of Forest fans who took Everton for granted. And a lot of people took Brentford for granted, and a lot of people took Leicester City for granted. At the end of Leicester City, when people were like acting as if we'd been relegated, I was saying, Europe after 30 years. Now, if you'd have said that to me that night, we played Middlesbrough when Houghton was sacked, which was a right stinker, the worst, awful. 2-0 at home to Middlesbrough. Remember Horvath and Loic Mbesso and Al Hernandez scored, and then Warnock was walking across the field, the worst. So Everton, before that game, I thought they're not going to get a kick up the backside. And it's only Everton. It's only Brentford. It's only Leicester. Do me a favour. Never, ever take anybody for granted, whoever you are. In the Premier League, my expectation never changed. When people said, bad one, I just didn't want to be in a relegation scrap. Because that's been my reality, not only for the last 2 years, but several years before, where we could have. It's only 7-8 years since we were beating Ipswich on the last day for an ignominious triumph to stop going to League One. Where we are now is astonishing. My two most disappointing moments from a personal point of view, because I've got such ties to the area and I know so many people there after living there for so long, was Bournemouth 5, Forest 0. And yet, I was a good boy because I went on their channel and said, on behalf of every single Nottingham Forest fan, well played to Bournemouth, you're outstanding. And we maintain our dignity and we move on. And I said at the time, if we beat Brighton next week, and that's not easy, then this game here at Dean Court actually won't matter. I got my reward to follow me with 7. My most disappointing moment of the season was the goal by Gvardiol at Wembley that basically finished off the semi-final, because I thought it was a really poor piece of defending. He was given all the time in the world. I wanted a Wembley final. I wanted what Palace got eventually. I'm so pleased Palace won it, because I thought Manchester City are dull. Jack Grealish has said he wants to leave there because he's been told by his coach he's not allowed to shoot or beat a man. He has to lay it back to his fullback all the time. Do you know what I mean? And so the Gvardiol header, after, if you like, tied in with it, Ants missed just after half time. I wanted an FA Cup final for us, for our family, and for them lads to go and enjoy that day. And the Gvardiol header was so easy and so poorly defended. It's the one time this season I wanted to kick him up the backside. I thought it was dreadful. Really poor play. I know. And then afterwards, we have all these chances to make it even worse. Morg has an amazing effort. He hits the bar. Taiwo hits the post. And actually, in the wider human sense, the most disappointing moment of the season was poor Taiwo's awful injury. I was 8 rows from that, and the thud of his body against the post was really upsetting. So I think that kind of puts it in perspective. But in a football sense, that second Manchester City goal at Wembley for me was dreadfully disappointing.
Mark, what about you?
Yeah, it's a clear winner for me. The most disappointing moment this season was the mid-season holiday moustache that you tried to grow. Absolutely shocking.
When was that? I can't remember when that was. Was it in the summer when you when?
I thought you meant my moustache.
Was it a Salvador? Was it a Hercule Poirot Salvador Dali kind of thing, Mark? I can't remember
it was
it.
the definition of bum fluff. It really was.
Oh, bless.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
We're
I
only
threw it on.
jealous because you're young. I can't believe you're only 21.
I've
when
started
I
wet
thought that.
shaving after Mark. I've started wet shaving after Mark said that comment. Honestly, I sent a video from Turkey thinking I'll let Max and Mark do the podcast, and Mark gets his hour of fame hosting the podcast, and then he goes and does that to me. Never forgiven him. Never forgiven. Max included in that.
So legitimately, most disappointing moment for me. I had been for many, many weeks very public, and even been on I don't remember which one it was, one of those fan TV shows in the UK. Anyway, suggesting that Forest weren't ready for Champions League, but that we were equipped for the Europa, and that I'd love to see us in at that level. And so, for us to run out of steam in the final, well, let's be honest, run out of steam several games before the end of the season. But in that final game where you're at the City ground, bases are loaded, you only have to get a point. And when I say bases are loaded, I mean Newcastle lose, Villa lose.
Yeah.
You only have to get a point. And obviously, I always want Forest to win every game they play, but I really would have been okay had they not won that one in the circumstances. Again, Max, we've talked about kind of the hoopla and the cachet of Champions League and how good it looks and all that. But it only looks good until you rock up to the games and then you get your butt handed to you.
Agreed.
So I would have loved Europa, and 1 point would have done it. So I'm not going to lie. It's difficult, isn't it? It's like Dave's point about Leicester. It's like we're all downbeat after Leicester and complaining about the performance and everything, forgetting the fact we're back in Europe, first time in whatever it is, for 30, 40 years. Absolutely mad. So it does feel very churlish to suggest that after the amazing season that this team delivered for us, that in its final moments, I was disappointed. But again, one goal would have been all it took. So that was a disappointment for me.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Mark.
That's a very, that's a good point, Mark.
And Mark, thank you for pricking the bubble of my pomposity with the moustache comment, mate. There was me giving it like Land of Hope and Glory, and then you come, his moustache was a bit naff, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Welcome to Garibaldi Red. I'm your host, Max Hayes.
It's actually not the sideburns.
I was going to start, Dave. I was going to start nicknaming Peach.
I've no idea what that means.
South American tour.
Yeah. I'll grow.
He'll be looking like Che Guevara when he gets to Cuba, mate, won't he?
He didn't need to go out wet shaving. He just needed some sellotape.
Wax Max.
Oh God!
Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the Everton game. Sorry, I'm going to be dead boring. I just wanted to say that I know that we didn't get Champions League, and that wasn't really what I was disappointed. I am disappointed we didn't get Champions League for the reasons of money and where we'd be as a club and stuff. And I would have liked Europa, Mark, definitely. But what I was really gutted about was I just wanted to prove all them pundits and all those people that said we were going to drop off. I just wanted to prove them wrong. Yeah, and that was why I'm happy that we're in Europe. I'm happy that we're, great. I'm looking, I've booked my hotel for the final, all right, But so I'm happy with that. But it was just that they've just let them all say, we told you so. And I wanted to prove them all wrong. Yeah, we did. We did, but then they started again, didn't they? They started again. We're not going to get Champions League. We're not good enough. We're not this. We're not. And I felt that they'd reset our goals. We'd reset our goals, but they had, and they'd said they'll get Europe, but they won't get Champions League. And we proved them right, and that's what annoyed me, I think.
Yeah, but they had, the majority had us down for relegation or battling relegation.
They did at the beginning, yeah, but they reset all those goals.
End of season teams that all the pundits have picked. There's at least one Forest representative in every pundits team. In many instances, up to 3. Like many of them picked Sal's, they picked Milenkovic, and they picked Wood. So everyone's eating their words. I know what you mean, but,
But it was just that bit that it was just like, obviously the Derby fans, the Leicester fans, and they're all like, you all go into middle of nowhere and let's all laugh at Forest. And it's like, well, I'm not laughing and you guys aren't laughing. They're laughing. They're not laughing because they're in league, they're in championship, So they want to be where we are, surely. We know that. But it was just, it would just have been nice to just like prove everybody wrong. That was all. And Europa, I just would have liked that. Europa spot.
Derby fans, Leicester fans, never listened to them. The Nevilles, the Linekers of this world. My punk rock statement was to not change my expectations because that's what they wanted me to do.
Yeah, no,
and I have all the way through this season. I thought about Middlesbrough at home and Chris Hughton. Right, it's not that long ago. Chrissy's Cohen scoring and Britt scoring on the last day of the season. It's not that long ago, right? It's like I remember the bottom of the championship, 7 defeats, 1 draw. It's not that long ago, right? And there were lots of people, certain Forest channels. Well, I've changed my expectations now. What about you, Dave? No, I'm not a sheep. I'm not following that. I'm sticking with my expectations because my avowed intent is to give as much glass half full, as much positivity, as much admiration to the progress our lads are making as I can possibly give to them. I live my professional life now as a coach, and I'm like constantly putting a good slant on everybody because that's what people in life want. So I never changed my expectation. At the end of the Chelsea game, there were some people around me, and you looked at them, and from their outlook, their aura, it looked like Forest had been relegated. And I said to one guy, "Hey, mate, have Sheffield United, Luton Town and Burnley gone on?" What are you saying that for? It's irrelevant. Because these amazing lads in Garibaldi Red on the field have made it relevant. I said, and as to this point of like tailing off, the 6 above us, and it hit me the most at Villa Park when we lost 2-1. Villa made 8 changes that day and still looked like a really good Aston Villa team. It was in between them, like putting the wind up PSG, who are playing in the biggest game of the lot tonight. And I looked at it and I thought, Liverpool, built for Europe. Arsenal, built for Europe. City, built for Europe. Newcastle, built to get in Europe. Villa, built for Europe to get in. Chelsea, £1 billion spent. Nottingham Forest, built to repel Southampton, Ipswich Town, Leicester, probably maybe Wolves or Everton, and to be better at set pieces. So I cannot get away from the fact that in my mind, and maybe people saying, Dave, you're over-dramatising it, the progress is astonishing.
Without a doubt, it's astonishing. Astonishing.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, if you put us all in, if you put it all in a bag, mix us all it up, and we come out 7th, we're all happy days, aren't we?
Would you have taken it at 2:59 on August the 10th when we were about to start against Bournemouth? I know I would.
All of us would.
Yeah.
Especially against blooming Bournemouth, Dave. I'd have taken anything.
Oh my God! I did think we were going to drop off at that point, actually.
Do you know what, mate? I was the last one out the away end at Dean Court. And on the way into the ground, I met a load of lads I knew from when I was down Bournemouth footballing and stuff. And they were all shouting from the Bournemouth beer tent. And I had to walk past that Bournemouth beer tent again, having lost 5-0. And I'm like, yeah, lads, I hear you. You know what I mean?
So I refuse to go back to that place, Dave. I'm traumatised from that night. It was, mate, dreadful, wasn't it? When Kiefer Moore ruined my hope for automatic promotion tonight.
It all comes round because Kiefer Moore set young Tommy Watson up to put Sunderland in the Premier League. And what made me laugh last Sunday was who scored the goal last Sunday? A major figure in our history. Levi Colwell, who put us in the Premier League, scored against us last Sunday. These things come around, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. A lesson in life. Good point, Dave. Right, let's finish it off with something nice, best moment of the season. And it doesn't have to just be a game. It could be anything. It could be a snippet of a game. It could be a goal. It could be a series of events. It can be anything. So I'll kick off and I will go for supporting Nottingham Forest at Christmas was just brilliant. The fact that we had unbelievable wins away at Everton, away at Manchester United, at home to Tottenham Hotspur. We beat Brentford away. We beat Brentford in the Premier League, which was unbelievable. So for me, Christmas supporting Forest was when, honestly, dreams came true. And that was when I started believing that Forest might get Champions League football or some sort of European football, which we obviously did. So that for me was my best moment of the season, supporting Forest at Christmas. Mark, give us yours.
Well, we're top and tailing the pod here in that we're going to end up essentially saying what we said at the intro, which is when we were looking for player of the season, which is there's so many choices.
Yeah.
So many options.
Yeah.
There's no right answer. Max, when we did this podcast last year, off air, you and I would grumble a little bit, like always upbeat, always privileged to do the pod. But we would grumble from week to week, like, oh, good grief. Now we've got to talk about that game or that disappointment or that coming up short. And this year has been the absolute antithesis of that. I can't wait to get on the pod. I'm waiting for you to invite me because invariably we have something exciting to talk about, whether it's a goal, whether it's a performance, whether it's a remarkable save, so many good moments, mate. So I went a little bit out of left field only because, I could have talked about Brighton. Brighton for me was the high spot. I absolutely love a good old fashioned Sunday morning down the park battering. It is so fun
against a good side too.
I mean, it's happened so rarely. But yeah, I mean, I was on my feet in front of the TV, like the whole la 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 la, just absolutely laughing it up. But for me, again, left field, I'm going to go with Morgan Gibbs-White getting his call up to the England team and Muro called up to Brazil.
Yeah,
absolutely huge for those players individually. Nothing more than both deserved. And again, another feather in Forest's cap this season. And I was so incredibly proud. I come from a generation similar to Dave. Sarah's at least 20 years younger than me. But I come from a generation where representing your country really meant something. It wasn't a carousel of who's the latest and greatest. It actually really meant something, pulling on the shirt, the three lions, going away to represent your nation in competitions and, trying to secure silverware for the first time in 20, 25, 30, 35, 45 years, right? As the Three Lions song goes on and England's barren spell continues, barring the women, of course, who hopefully will come good again in the next Euros. So for Morgan Gibbs-White in particular to get that call up and to represent Forest on the national scene and the international scene was absolutely huge. So again, so many good moments, impossible to choose, but I want to give those guys their flowers for those incredible achievements.
Dave, what about you?
Well, the whole season is a great moment, isn't it? I'm 61. We've waited a lot of us. I mean, I've waited since the mid-90s for anything to kind of really cling on to. I think for the younger generation as well, there's been a lot of youngers like you, lads your age, Max, and a lot of the little ones that go to Forest, little lassies and little lads who go, they've now got something to talk to their mates about, because for years they were like, well, my team's not done anything. So the whole season, from August to 10th.
They've got heroes. They finally got heroes. You and I, we're never on a podcast where we don't mention Francis or Robertson or Gilbert.
Absolutely, Mark. And it's just lovely for me. And I try to take the moment in to see these little ones and the young kids and that really enjoying wearing their Garibaldi red and having something to say about it. In terms of moments, the penalty shootouts were pretty good, not the Newcastle one. A moment for me was getting home from Exeter at 5:45 in the morning. That was good, right? Getting back from Brighton to the City Ground at 3:30 because the clocks went forward. That was pretty good. Toff's clearance at Tottenham. H had his moment in the sun, and a wonderful lad, a great ambassador for our football club, had his week, and he won his place in an FA Cup semi-final. Zach Abbott getting picked. Let's give credit to Zach. lovely lad coming to the
Great
system.
shout.
Yeah.
Great shout.
And all the things that you lot have talked about, I'm with all of them. I'm with Mark and Morgan and Moo and all these people getting recognition. And it just shows Forest have pushed themselves front and centre of conversation, football-wise and in the world. There are people who come in the gym now who I see, don't know anything about football, don't care about it. And they come and go, "Ooh, I saw Forest won." And Forest are no longer a backwater. Like, weren't they a good team once? You know, when we were in the Championship League One. My moment of the season was winning at Anfield and Callum's goal. It was a wonderful goal that basically, it was, I tell you what about Anfield, we exposed some hypocrisy there in one of the great fan bases of the world. Before the start of the game, walk on and you'll never walk alone, and all that business was being sung. On 73 minutes, a truly brilliant counter-attacking goal involving a fantastic ball from Anthony Elanga to Callum Hudson-Odoi. Oh, I wonder what Callum's going to do. I wonder if he'll cut in and then bend it in with his right. Everybody in the world knows what's going to go on. Go on then, Conor Bradley, much taunted as Trent's replacement. Stop him. Couldn't. Alisson Becker, apparently the best goalkeeper in the world. Watched it go in. Right. It bent it in. Callum, who I love Callum dearly because Callum is honest and decent and rebuilding his career. He had, like Mark said, he had the lowest of the lows with injury and things like that. He was a forgotten man. He's not forgotten anymore. He's been on the verge of a call-up, I think, with Tuchel. So Callum is a wonderful... I met Callum at Harrogate for an EFL trophy game. It was the day after he signed. And me and Dor met him, and Dor said, "Can I have a photo?" You know, and I'm too old for fanboy photos. So I took the photo, and I just said to him, "We're glad to have you here, Callum. Hope you enjoy your football, kid. And we'll look after you." And he said, Callum Hudson-Odoi said to me and Dor, he said, "I'll do my best for you." And he does his best every week. So for him, it was wonderful. And then what was interesting, looking at the stands around Anfield, and Liverpool for the last 20 minutes of that game had to walk alone because their fans all walked home. And coming out of Anfield, the only problem coming out of Anfield was trying to keep Dor quiet with all these scousers around, you know what I mean? Because he was really giving it some, you know, and I'm going, Dor, please, just keep a lid on it, mate. There's a lot of scousers here, right?
What the scouts are saying, Dave? We're interested to hear what they sound like.
Well played, you marvellous chaps from Nottingham. I thought you were absolutely magnificent. You played scintillating, exquisite football. You took football to a level that we have rarely seen here these days on Merseyside, and absolutely tremendous. We haven't had such a cultural movement since the Beatles, Cilla Black and the Searchers, you know what I mean? So, honestly, I think Anfield, and the thing about Anfield as well, it was a signal, a sign, something's on here. And things were going to get better. I also think, I'll tell you another great moment I'm going to chuck in. Anfield is the greatest for me. I think the brawl at Stamford Bridge when Cucurella and Nico got pushed over and Cucurella's hair dragged Maresca onto the floor, and we're worth £1 billion. They all came out the dugout, and the next minute, Willie and Chris and Morato, who got slapped by Nicholas Jackson, they all came out and went, "Oh, you're worth £1 billion, are you? Well, we're Nottingham Forest. You pick on Nico, you pick on all of us." And from that moment, I thought, wow, how close-knit are these? So I think the brawl at Chelsea, but for me, it has to be Anfield. To win at Anfield, I never dreamed of that.
Are we the only team? Were we the only team this season to beat the champions on their own turf? I think we were, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah. They've only lost to us, Brighton and Fulham.
They don't count. They'd already won the league.
Yeah.
All those teams that they lost at the end, they were celebrating.
Arnie, in your head, in your head. A Block was singing to Arnie Slot, and Arnie Slot, it was happening, and Arnie Slot tried to make us all believe that it wasn't going in, and it was going in. And he mentioned it every time. What a great season you're having. He kept saying, "Yeah, but we lost to Nottingham Forest." Right in there. Yeah. So Anfield, it has to be Anfield for me, Max.
Before you transition to Sarah, Max, it just occurred to me, and I'm not being funny, I am being funny here, but also it's a legitimate question. Is Zach Abbott starting for Forest the first time a Forest player has been younger than you? That's pretty mad. You're now officially old, Max.
Yeah, do you know what, Mark? That's a good point. Yeah, 21. Well, I was 21 on the Tuesday just gone. So how old is Zach Abbott? Zach Abbott?
Pereira's own. Isn't he 19, Pereira? And he's played for us, hasn't he? Yeah. Pereira's 19. Is it Pereira? the guy we bought from Germany. Is he not 19?
Oh, Eric Moreira. He played at Exit. He played at Exit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 19. Sorry.
Eric Moreira de Silva. Yeah.
I just
Might be
bought
actually,
Moreira
yeah.
in as well.
My personal highlight in terms of moments of the season would be Dave Astbury's brother buying him a microphone. It's never been better to listen to Dave since. There, look at
Dave
that.
Astbury. Dave Astbury, brought to you by Rob Astbury. he said,
commercials.
My brother gave me a right. He said, I bought you a microphone. He told me what he was buying me for my birthday. I bought you a microphone. Oh, that's a surprise. Why is that? Well, you sound muffled. Yeah, but I think that's probably better for everybody else rather than me. You know what I mean?
Right, Sarah, you get the last word in terms of
Oh gosh, that's hard. So yeah, well, I'm the same as everyone. Well, I wasn't at Anfield because my daughter was getting married in Portugal. So we were listening to it on a sunbed. And I said to Mick, do you want to go to the bar and watch it? He was like, no, we won't win. I went, I think we might get a draw. I don't know where that came from. So yeah, so we wasn't there, but I'm sure it would have been. And it still is one of the moments of beating Liverpool and away at Leicester, because that was just a great away game.
Yeah.
Just absolutely brilliant. Not just because it was just brilliant, wasn't it?
The atmosphere was good.
Amazing.
Chris Wood's on fire. Your defence is terrified. Chris Wood's on fire.
And it was,
No.
We were teetering, weren't we? Where we could have, they all thought they were going to beat us, and we weren't quite sure, were we? And then we beat them, and it was just like, yeah, we put that to bed.
Stevie Cooper, he hates the Leicester, he hates the Derby.
It was just a brilliant away game.
Yeah,
and I think the Man U one, even though it was freezing, was great. But I'm like you, Max. You could run the whole run, everything.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. The whole season, fantastic, and it was great to see Taiwo, as Dave has mentioned, come on the pitch on the last game of the season, on the last day of the season, because what he's just been through, I can't tell. That he must have thought he must have been terrified, and his family must have been terrified. To be playing a game of football. I mean, I saw a recording of that, and he went with such a bang. How on earth he managed to stand up, I don't know. And
James Justin pushed him into the post because James was kind of trying to get in there to stop him. So he kind of got sandwiched up.
Yeah, I know. But it was good to see him at the game. Whether he plays another game for us or not, what a player he's been for us. He's not had a great season for himself, injury. He's not had a long run in the games. But it was just, I got a tear in my eye on that last, because that's horrible to not know what was happening for 48 hours and then having to put you in a coma. It was, and I think that kind of says, we've had a fantastic season, football, everything, but no one expects that, do they, when they play a game? But so I can't really pinpoint, but I think probably footballing wise, the Leicester away was just a great away game.
Can I chuck in two more?
Well,
Nuno's piggyback at the end of Ipswich, was a good one. And Alvarez against West Ham when he couldn't find the tunnel and he carried on walking. You don't know where you're going. And Alvarez walked past. He walked halfway along the main stand. He went, "Oh, hang on a minute," and he had to come back. Hilarious on a day where West Ham were the worst team we've played all season. Truly abysmal, right? So I think that was quite good.
From Ola. And watching Marinakis hug them all as they come through. I love that. I love it. But so it's hard to pick a moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that I think all of that would have been solved if Taiwo, and I don't blame him in any way, shape, or form. Taiwo had no inkling of how severe that injury was. So like any bloke on a football field, the last thing they want to do is to come off. They don't want to come off. So when Oasis, Liam Gallagher got to him from the medical team, said, "Taiwo, how are you?" The adrenaline and the testosterone and the sheer machismo of it would have said, "I'm all right. I want to carry on." And he went, and then he
carried on for 48 more hours. So they didn't actually know, did they? Was it 24 hours?
Yeah, but when he ran back on the field, I looked at Taiwo's face, and Taiwo went, "Oh yeah, I think I might have misjudged this." ruptured intestine, ruptured spleen. And I also remember Elliot, do I come off or do I stay on, Gaffer? And Nuno's like, well, let's just hang on a minute. Yeah. It was just, that was made into something when it was nothing really, that.
No, it wasn't. And it was just, he carried on for 24 hours. So it just shows you,
how tough he is.
Yeah.
Max, I wanted to have the last word on this. So I hope Dave's completely emptied out the bag of goodies there.
He's worn
But
out.
just because I feel bad in the last pod, I didn't give a name check to it. And you can't talk about the incredible season that the Nottingham Forest family has had without talking about what the women did this year.
Correct,
Yeah.
It
And the under-18s.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been an absolute banner season for anyone wearing Garibaldi this season. So congratulations to the women on their double, to the 18s on their trophy. All around. Just
Netball girls are going well and all.
If you say so, Dave.
Right, both.
When's the Forest hockey team start up, Dave?
Dave's starting
it. We'll have a Nottingham Panthers versus Nottingham Forest ice hockey derby, mate. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome.
Right, that does us nicely. We've hit an hour. Sarah's got a barbecue to go to. I've got
to cook.
I'm on a you've got to cook, poor thing. So we've hit an hour, so that does us very nicely. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all your contributions this season, everybody on the podcast. I'll be away. Matt has mentioned being a few times. So, I'm off traveling South America for a whole just over a month, 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks tomorrow. So I won't be here for 5.5 weeks. Mark will be, Sam will be, and Max will be. So they'll be doing an episode each, probably, with a few familiar faces on the podcast. Mark doesn't know he's even hosting yet, so I need to let him know.
He does now. To quote Kenneth Wilstone, he does now.
So they'll be looking after things for 5 weeks before I come back from what should be hopefully a nice break, but you never know, traveling around South America. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. So thanks for all your comments this season. It's been brilliant. It's been great hosting it and talking Forest. We love it. Honestly, it's been incredible covering Forest this season. I'm sure everyone agrees that has followed the club closely. It's been incredible. So thanks to all the contributors. I could list them all that come on the podcast, but everyone knows who they are. Thanks to everyone that comments. Thanks to everyone that shares it, follows us on social media. It comes up and says something at a game as well. That's lovely when people say, we really enjoy you, Max, and we like Dave even better, or we like Mark even better. That's lovely to hear. So thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on, Max.
Yeah, have a good time.
No problem at all. Thank you all. And it has been lovely. So we really, really appreciate it. And hopefully we will be having a better season next season. In terms of a better one than what's been a brilliant season already. Europa League conference next season, Thursday nights in Albania. We will see you there. We look forward to it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks and hopefully for a lovely summer. Thanks to everyone. Enjoy your summer.
Thanks. Come on three, mate. On three. 1, 2, 3.
You Reds!